Hey guys, and welcome to the Leftover Culture Review, the only review show on the internet that it's probably worth telling your grandparents about because they are gonna freaking love it. You never know, you might even get a really awesome inheritance, all because of me, and I wouldn't be too modest for you to share that with me either. I'd be totally open to that. But look, let's not get bogged down in grandparents right now because I want to talk to you about the Game Boy. Look, sometimes when Mum sends me to my room because she thinks I'm cranky, she thinks it's time for my nap, I don't feel tired. I mean, lots of us don't feel tired when we get sent to our rooms for a sleep, which is why the Game Boy is such a perfect device to have on you at all times. I shove this one down the front of my pants. There's plenty of space down there. Game Boy fits perfectly. It's even got like the nice smooth bumps and stuff to sit snug. It sits snug down the front of your pants. Take it anywhere. It is super portable. Super portability is the major selling point for the Game Boy. And I found a game recently. You probably already guessed what it was thanks to the title of this video, which is Beavis and Butt-Head for the Game Boy. This tiny cartridge actually packs about an hour-long adventure, which is the perfect amount of time to get some Beavis and Butt-Head in before your mum can storm in and check why you aren't asleep yet. Or if you've got really cool parents, they might even let you stay up and play an hour-long video game before you have to go to sleep. So, what makes a good Beavis and Butt-Head video game? I consider myself to be a bit of a connoisseur when it comes to fantastic Beavis and Butt-Head experiences. First and foremost, my favorite Beavis and Butt-Head game on the PC has to be Beavis and Butt-Head Do You. It is a fantastic point and click adventure game. You get to control the boys as you navigate a university campus, get signatures signed off on, and make your way to an awesome frat party. The biggest issue that I have with my favorite Beavis and Butt-Head game is the lack of characters. You are on that university campus. You don't get all the classic Beavis and Butt-Head characters to meet and greet and generally annoy. There are a bunch of characters in here, but not all of the ones I remember from the TV cartoon. That is one reason I reckon Beavis and Butt-Head on the Game Boy really excels. You are in that high school. You get a whole bunch of Beavis and Butt-Head characters to annoy right here on this tiny Game Boy cartridge. It is perfect. Well, okay, it's not perfect. It is an okay Game Boy game. One that I really reckon is worth checking out. So like I mentioned, you start off in the high school and you've got to escape. I mean, you are Beavis and Butt-Head. You're not there to do any extracurricular activities. You are there to find the exit. You're not there to learn. You're there to bust out. And that's where you realize this whole game is basically structured like an overhead adventure title. You need to find the items to progress through, to bust out of the high school and make your way into the park. And it becomes pretty quickly apparent, just like in real life, I guess, for the boys, that everything is out to hurt you. You are avoiding dogs, tennis players, birds, groundskeepers. The list just continues to grow because you really don't catch a break. The gameplay itself is pretty linear. You always are progressing to the next area. It's not too hard to navigate the stages. It is a Game Boy game. It is a really small adventure packaged up in a really playable small way, which I do appreciate. But it's once you get out of the park, the game's perspective suddenly switches into this platforming style segment, which I really enjoy video games, especially on the Game Boy, that can package in these different gameplay styles. That can keep things interesting, that can add the variety no matter how small that game cartridge is. So we get a platforming stage which is frustrating and it sucks, but it's there and it works. And once you do get out of the sewers, it doesn't take too long. You immediately head to Burger World where you get your first job once you walk in the door, which is killing a bunch of cockroaches. This game has those platforming elements, but it also has some mini games built in. Killing cockroaches is just one, it's fun, it ties in perfectly with what the boys really kind of do at Burger World. But once you leave Burger World, that's when Todd and his gang show up and they steal, kidnap, Butt-Head. And you need to play as Beavis and collect money and go pick up motor oil in town and bring it to Todd. So the mission starts to become a bit more apparent. But while you're playing through, you get to explore the town that these boys grew up in, Highland. And as you're exploring the little shops and the stores and exploring all the different buildings you can walk into, there are actually other mini games. Well, there's one other mini game to find, which is set up like an arcade style breakout game, which, again, the variety. I really do appreciate the variety they managed to pack into such a small little cartridge. Fantastic Beavis and Butt-Head game, well worth checking out. The adventure itself, it's kind of funny. Like, they do package some humor into a Beavis and Butt-Head game, which I do think is really important. And it's one thing that Do You did really well. Having like that FMV style point and click adventure element, it lets you explore that cartoon world. And I feel like in a lot of ways, Beavis and Butt-Head on the Game Boy really tried to do that as well. Very similar to the Sega Mega Drive or the Sega Genesis Beavis and Butt-Head game, which let you explore Highland. I appreciate that a lot more than a side-scrolling adventure like you'd get on the Game Gear or on the Super Nintendo. They feel like they tried a little bit harder. And as you're playing through the game, you aren't all alone. You can find and pick up weapons like spitballs, tomatoes. You can even find some power-ups to help you get through the stages. So Beavis can find coffee, which turns them into cornholio and gives them unlimited energy to get through segments. Butt-Head finds porno magazines, I guess. I mean, I'd be in a lot of trouble if Mum ever found me with one. But apparently it gives Butt-Head, again, like that extra energy he needs to break through and survive a little bit longer in Highland, even though everything is out to get him. So Beavis and Butt-Head for the Game Boy. Developed by a company called Taurus. They are an Australian-based development company, family-owned, still running, still putting out games on the modern systems, which is really nice to hear. I love hearing stories like that. When it comes to video games, a lot of the companies are a little bit shaky. There's not always a good story to tell there, but it looks like Taurus is still in business, still doing things, which is awesome. But I do appreciate the fact that they managed to take so much of that enthusiasm and energy and humor and comedy and the adventure element of a Beavis and Butt-Head game and package it up for Game Boy. I do recommend checking out the Game Boy game. If you do enjoy Beavis and Butt-Head, that's kind of like, you need to enjoy Beavis and Butt-Head to enjoy a Beavis and Butt-Head game. But if you enjoy the misfit pair of boys, definitely worth checking out the Game Boy game. There haven't been all that many Beavis and Butt-Head titles, and I don't expect to see many more coming out. So this is kind of what we're left with. I do think their adventure here on the Game Boy, it's a lot more fun than the Super Nintendo game was. But again, my favorite Beavis and Butt-Head title, Beavis and Butt-Head Do You. I've reviewed that here on the channel already. Also, Beavis and Butt-Head for the Sega Mega Drive, Sega Genesis. Reviewed that here on the channel as well, and it is a fantastic adventure style game. Well worth checking out. But we're talking about games you can play easily, conveniently, take with you wherever you go. Beavis and Butt-Head for the Game Boy. So who would have thought Beavis and Butt-Head on the Nintendo Game Boy, a Nintendo game, gets my seal of approval. It's a lot more fun than I had with the Game Gear version of Beavis and Butt-Head, which really felt like a linear, side-scrolling platformer. I love the adventure elements they managed to pack in. Well worth checking out. Beavis and Butt-Head for the Game Boy. Stay safe. Don't let Mum catch you with this kind of contraband. I'm going to go hide this under my mattress, maybe back in my pants. I haven't decided yet. Check out Beavis and Butt-Head if you want. Definitely check out Beavis and Butt-Head Do You, as well as the Sega game. Both those reviews are right here on this channel. I would love for you to check out a whole bunch more of my videos, but at the very least, I think you owe me a subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if I got anything wrong in this video, because I know you guys are going to call me out for it anyway. I might not do all my research, but I know what I enjoy, and I enjoyed this game. So hit like, hit subscribe, and until next time, stay tuned for some more leftover culture. Cheers, guys.